What will Donald Trump do to the economy when he gets into office? Now, I'm not a political person. It's not a political video. I mean, like, I don't really have an allegiance with anyone. I'm Canadian too, so that's also a thing. But I don't know. I don't really have a side, to be honest. I'm not conservative or liberal or NDP or Green or Libertarian or whatever. I think that maybe I would lean towards Libertarian, but probably not. I just like people. I don't know. I'm not a political person, but this is what Trump will do to the economy. So what will he do? Will it come crashing down when he gets into office? So the number one thing which I want people to know is there will not, this is the sign for will not, be drastic change. That's weird. Why is he saying that? He's making a video on how Trump's going to change the economy, but there won't be drastic change. Well, there's going to be change. There will be change. That's just the way it is. But, you know, people thought that when he got elected, that the stock market was going to crash and everyone was going to leave. And just people overreact. That's what people overreact and always assume that something giantly terrible is going to happen and that one person can change everything. No. No, in fact, something kind of funny is that, you know, the Dow, okay, so the Dow Jones is it's a stock index. So it's like the top 50 companies in the United States, and it indexes them, and pretty much it shows how the best companies in the USA are doing in terms of the stock market and what their value is. And that just hit a high like a week or a few days ago. It was like 19,200 or something dollars, or points. I say dollars, whatever. But yeah, people thought that the economy is going to come crashing down once he got elected. The stock market saw the opposite, which is kind of interesting. And I have kind of an opinion on what may happen to the stock market. Maybe I should jump into that first. I was going to jump into that second. Maybe I should jump into that first. So stock market kind of hit a high here. And people were expecting, the economy to crash down for a few reasons. There's some conspiracy theories, by the way. There's the conspiracy theory that the Federal Reserve wants Democrats in office. So once a Republican or Donald Trump gets in, they're just going to cause the recession by raising interest rates or making negative interest rates. Either can cause a recession, and Trump would be blamed for it, and then they get a Democrat in 4 years. So that's just a big conspiracy theory that I don't really believe, but it's kind of like interesting to think about. So I don't know. Stock market, not much is going to happen because of Trump. But we will see a change to the economy itself in terms of taxes. I made a 9-part video on Bernie Sanders versus Trump's tax plans. This is kind of a way to summarize that, I guess, plus I added on a bunch here. So what Trump wants to do is he wants to cut taxes. He wants to cut taxes across the board. Now, how much this will affect everyday people, I believe it's 3 to 12% for the average person. Yes, that's right. So the average American, so average, gets their taxes cut, decreased by 3 to 12%. And when you do the math here, so the average income for an American is $32,000. Personal income is $32,000. And so if they get their taxes lowered by 10%, that's $3,000 a year for every American. Yeah. So, but what will this do to the federal deficit? So the federal deficit is whatever. It's at trillions and trillions of dollars right now. I don't know what it's at. But the federal deficit, how much the government owes to the Federal Reserve, it's going to probably increase that by about 10% too. Proportional to how much, it's kind of proportional here. Do I think that'll happen? I don't. I don't think that the deficit will go up that much from a tax cut. Now, I'll explain why. I'll give you the quick example of the Laffer curve here. A lot of you have probably seen this, but I'm just going to do this super, super quick. I'll explain it. So generally what happens here So on the y-axis, we have the total tax revenue from a nation. So we have tax revenue on the y-axis, and then we have the percentage of tax here at the bottom. And generally what happens, what people think would happen, is that the more you tax people, the more tax revenue you get. But economists and myself and a lot of business people know that's not true. Because what would happen, okay, I'll let you think about this. If you got taxed 0%, obviously you would work and all that stuff. If you got taxed 100%, and no matter how hard you worked and how much money you made, you would have to give it all to the government for all your food and all your services and all the healthcare, how hard would you work? Would you work at all? Odds are no, you would not work. Maybe you would get executed if you didn't work, I don't know. But generally speaking, the higher you get to 100% of taxable income, the closer you get to that, the lower the tax revenue will get, because people will be less motivated to start their own companies and make more money. So generally, you see something like this. This is what the Laffer curve is like. That's what it's called. And so I made a 9-part video on this, so this is just a quick summary here. So sometimes what can happen is if you're getting taxed, I don't know, this is a high number, we'll just say 70%. This is the improper Laffer curve actually. Laffer curve most likely looks something like this. It's actually 28% is the number here. So we'll say 50 there. I don't know. I'm messing this up. I'm trying to be quick here, but it's just not working out well. So Laffer curve, according to a lot of economists, looks something like that. So if you get taxed at 50%, that's the total tax revenue will be this much, okay? But sometimes when you cut taxes to, let's just say 30% here, it'll increase tax revenue because a lot of reasons. Because, well, as I said before, people will be motivated to make more money and be more productive. But what Trump wants to do is something else too, which could increase tax revenue by a lot. So what he wants to do is all the corporations that are American and hold their money overseas, like Apple, I don't know, Amazon, all those American companies that hold 80% or more of their holdings in like China and Germany and Japan, he will say for this one time, this one period of 1 year, you can bring all of that money back over to the United States, and for the first year have none of it be taxed. None of it. So what he wants to do is to bring that money back, and hopefully that'll create more jobs. I love how he says jobs too, jabs. He wants to create some more jabs, and and yeah, then tax that money in the future, potentially, but not as much. He wants to cut corporate taxes too. Yeah, so his theory is he wants to cut taxes, and hopefully that could increase tax revenue. It'll probably still decrease tax revenue, but not by that much. So what will that do to employment? It is projected that him taking office could add, I think it's 5% to GDP actually. This was from Wall Street Journal, I believe. Was it 5%? Oh, no. A lot more than that. So over the next 5 years or 4 years, could increase GDP by 11%. Is that right? Oh, something like that. Or 8 years, 11% increase in GDP from his tax cuts. That's it. Which is good, obviously. It'll, actually he plans to raise wages by 7% too. So he wants to raise wages by 7%. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice here. Raise wages by 7%. Minimum wage and average wage. So not only will personal income get taxed less by 10%, the personal income will increase by 7%. So the average American might be making like $5,000 more a year, $4,000 more a year, maybe, based on his economic plans. So he wants to cut corporate taxes, as I said, corporate tax from 35%, oh Jesus, 35% to 15%. That's what he wants to do. So corporate tax for those of you that don't know, is when you form a corporation or a business or whatever, you money stays in the business, and you don't. If you take the money out of the business, it counts as income tax. If you leave it in the business and reinvest it, it actually gets taxed. It gets taxed at 35% in the United States. He wants to cut that to 15% so that the businesses can keep growing and growing and growing. Hopefully, it'll cause more employment and cause wages to go even higher. So that's why he wants to cut corporate taxes. He wants to boost the economy is what he wants to do. And it might work, but I think that he might be walking into a recession by accident anyways. So let's just see here. He wants to eliminate the estate tax. I guess I'll talk about that quick. So the estate tax is if you have an estate worth more than 5.4 million. People don't know that, like, when people die and they have an estate worth more than 5.4 million, it gets taxed at 40%. So yeah, if you have a $5.4 million estate, I don't know what's the number there. That's about $2.3 million, $2.2 million just gets taken by the government. It doesn't go to your kids. I know, weird, eh? So he wants to cut that out because he's a billionaire. And when he dies, he doesn't want all of his stuff to disappear. So, one more thing I want to talk about, what he'll do to the economy. So far this looks good. It looks like they'll get into more of a deficit, but the employment will go up, quality of living will go up, wages will go up. It'll all hopefully go up, right? That's all good and gravy since Trump got in. Well, now I'm not going to talk about the free trade agreement. I'm not going to talk about how he's kicking out all the Mexicans or wants to, but he doesn't want to actually. That's just something portrayed by the media and the liberals and Democrats. But so what might happen regardless of whether he gets in or not is this. Because the economy is not controlled by the president. It is generally it's controlled by the market to begin with. It's controlled by the banks, and it's controlled by the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is responsible for the cycles in the economy. So when we experience a recession, the Federal Reserve tries to make the recession not be terrible, I should say. So they lower interest rates. And when the growth is too high, they try to make it more of like they try to avoid a recession, I should say, by, I don't know, raising interest rates, making it harder to borrow money. So we're at a point right now where interest rates are at 0.5%. When I was a kid, they were at 8%. When my dad was a kid, they were at 20%. Or when my dad was an adult, actually, it was 20%. But yeah. So what does this mean? It means that this is the easiest time to borrow money in history, or the cheapest money, I should say. That's how rich people say it. It's the cheapest money in history right now. And so generally what happens is during a recession, like in 2008, in 2008, the interest rate was 6%? It was something like that. It was at 6%, okay? Or 2007, it was at 6%. And then 2008 happened, and the recession happened, and the government dropped it down to 0.1%. Okay? To try and make it easier for the economy to get going again. Now, historically, after a recession, here's what's supposed to happen. So we have 2007, interest rates right here at 6%. I'm going to try and make this a little bigger, actually. So we have 6% interest rate. We have 0% down here. Historically, what's supposed to happen is that here's normal, and then a recession happens. It goes down low, and then slowly it goes back up again. Okay? That's what's supposed to happen. Then it's supposed to sustain. Okay? Now here is what has happened since 2008. So 2008 hit. Here's what's happened. And this is the first time that has ever happened. It's been 8 years since the recession. Interest rates have stayed the same, essentially stayed the same for 8 years. And now, what happens if we hit another recession? What would happen? We would probably experience, for the first time in history, negative interest rates. It might be the worst recession ever. It could be the best recession ever. I don't know. But it might happen, it might not. I don't know. So regardless of whether Trump, I don't know, has his plans go through or not, I would say the economy, he doesn't really have too much control over the economy, to be honest. I mean, at the end of the day, it's run by the people, it's run by banks, it's run by the Federal Reserve. It's not run by average everyday Americans. Actually, to be honest, these interest rates and stuff, this is all banks. I mean, the heart of the economy and taxes are middle class, but the heart of the economy itself is not average everyday middle class people, I should say. Yeah, anyways. One slip up is going to probably trigger a bad recession. So at the end, just to kind of summarize, what Trump wants to do is he will probably increase employment, which is good. He will probably increase wages and GDP, all of which is good. He will probably make the government go into more debt, which at this point, like, they're in so much debt, they're never going to get out of it. So what's a little more debt, right? And he might just be walking into recession. And it's not really his fault. So anyways, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about for Trump. This is kind of a quickie video. It's about 10 minutes long. So yeah, that's going to kind of wrap it up, I guess. If you guys have any questions, tweet them to me at JackChappleSci on Twitter, as always. And yes, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. You're all very beautiful people. And I'll see you guys next time.